Chapter 21. Silky's clock is very clever. Joe sat hunched up near to Moonface. Silky and Bessie and Fanny talked together. The white goat sat on Bessie's knee and slept. The 7 hens tried to scratch the hard floor and clucked softly. "Where's my clock?" said Silky suddenly. Everyone looked around the room for it. It wasn't there. "It must have been left behind in the schoolroom," said Joe. "Never mind, Silky, you may get it back if we get out of here in 3 hours' time." "I hope so," said Silky. "It was a nice clock, and I liked it having feet to walk about on." "It's lucky not to be locked up with us," said Joe gloomily. "If there was a window in this silly round room, we might break it and escape through that, but there isn't even a small window." "And there isn't a fireplace either," said Moonface. "If there was, we might squeeze up the chimney. Listen," he said suddenly, "there's someone knocking at the door." They listened. Certainly there was someone outside knocking gently. "Come in if you can," said Moonface. "Unlock the door if the key's left in." But the key wasn't left in. No, Dame Slap had taken that away, you may be sure. "Who's there?" asked Silky. "Ding dong, said a soft voice. "It's my clock," cried Silky excitedly. "It's come to join us." "Oh," said Moonface, his big face going red with joy. "Tell your clock to go and get the key from somewhere and let us out, Silky." "That's no good," said Silky. "I noticed that Dame Slap wore all her keys on a string that hung from her waist. The clock could never get our key out from her." "Oh," said Moonface sadly. Everybody thought hard. "Ding dong, said the clock outside, and knocked again. "Look here, clock, if it isn't a bit of good your dinging and donging and knocking to get in," called Joe. "We are locked into this room, and we haven't got a key to get us out." "Dong," said the clock dolefully, and then it gave an excited ding, and began to dance about on its big feet, up and down, with its door wide open. "Whatever is that clock doing?" said Silky in astonishment. "Warming its feet, I should think," said Fanny with a giggle. But it wasn't. It was jerking about trying to jolt its own key off the little hook inside it. And at last it managed it. Clang! The key fell to the ground. "Whatever is your clock doing?" said Joe to Silky. "It must have gone mad." It hadn't. It had been very sensible. It kicked at the key with one of its feet, and the key slid under the door and into the room where the children were. "Oh, look," said Moonface in astonishment. "Your clock has jerked its key off the hook and kicked it under the door. Silky, really it's a most peculiar clock." Joe snatched up the key. "It might fit the door," he said. He tried it in the door. It almost turned, but not quite. He was dreadfully disappointed. But Moonface grinned. He took the key and rubbed it with a little magic powder that he kept in a box in his pocket. "Now try it," he said. So Joe slipped it into the lock once more, and it turned right round and unlocked the door. They crowded quietly out of the room, Joe taking the clock's key with him. Silky gave the clock a hug, and it said ding dong, quite loudly with joy. "Shh," said Silky, "don't make a sound." "We'll try and find our aeroplane," said Joe. "Let's try and get out of the door into the garden. We shall soon find it then." They tiptoed down a long passageway. But just as they got to the end, who should they see coming along but old Dame Slap herself. "Quick, hide behind the curtains," said Joe. They slipped behind them, but Dame Slap had heard something and came up to the curtains. She was just going to pull them apart when Silky's clock walked out and shouted "Ding dong" in her ear and trod on her toes. Dame Slap gave a shout of rage and slapped the clock hard. It ran away down the passage with Dame Slap after it. "Good old clock," said Silky joyfully. "It just walked out and ding-donged in time. Another minute and we would all have been found." "Come on," said Moonface, peeping out of the curtains. "We'd better do our best to get to the garden now, whilst the old dame is out of the way." They tiptoed down a long room and came to a door leading into the garden. Just as Joe was going to open it, he pushed them all quickly back into the room. "Dame Slap is coming here," he whispered. "Quick, hide behind the furniture." So quick as lightning, everyone crouched down behind sofas and chairs, whilst Dame Slap opened the door and came in grumbling, "Wait till I get that clock." And at that very moment the clock came running in on its flat feet and ding-donged very cheekily at her. Dame Slap picked up her skirts and tore down the long room and up the passage after it. The children of Moonface and Silky, the hens and the goats, rushed to the garden door, opened it, and crowded out into the garden. "Find the aeroplane, quick!" cried Joe. They ran down the path and looked for the shining aeroplane. "There it is!" shouted Moonface, pointing to the aeroplane lying on the smooth grass. They all ran to it and squeezed in. "I don't like leaving my clock behind," said Silky. "It has been very clever. I wonder where it is." "Look, there it is, with old Dame Slap after it," cried Joe. Sure enough, they saw the clock come waddling out from behind a bush, striking hard, and Dame Slap was after it, panting and very red-faced. The clock dodged neatly around a bush. Dame Slap tripped over a stone and fell down. The clock shot away to the aeroplane, and Silky helped it in. It sank down into a corner and struck 63 times without stopping. But this time nobody minded. They thought the clock was really quite a hero. Dame Slap picked herself up and ran towards the aeroplane. Joe pressed the up handle. The propeller began to whir round and round. The aeroplane quivered and shook. It rose gently into the air and left Dame Slap below, looking very angry indeed. "Answer this question," shouted Moonface, leaning overboard. "If 5 people, 7 hens, 1 goat, and a clock go up into an aeroplane, put down how many slaps should be saved up for when they get home." Everyone giggled. "Do be careful where we land next time," said Bessie. "We really must get home." "I think I know where we are now," said Moonface, as they flew over a curious land where the trees were yellow and the grass was pink. "If you can fly straight on till you come to a silver tower, then to the right till you come to the land of seagulls, then to the left over the 3 Bears' Wood, we shall soon be home." "Right," said Joe. He watched out for the silver tower, and when he saw it, tall and gleaming, he pressed the handle marked "to the right," and flew on till he came to the land of seagulls. This was quite easy to know, for all round about, flying on snow-white wings, were hundreds of magnificent gulls. The aeroplane had to go slowly through the clouds of lovely birds. Joe flew to the left, and soon they were over the 3 Bears' Wood, and saw the rose-covered cottage where Goldilocks lived with the bears. "Good, now it won't be long before we're home," said Joe. He flew on till he came over the Enchanted Wood, and then landed in a field not far from it. Everyone jumped out. "That was a most exciting adventure," said Fanny, "but I hope we never see Dame Slap again." "Oh, quick, catch the clock," said Bessie. "It's trying to climb out of the aeroplane, and it will fall." "Dong, dong, dong, dong," said the clock, and it slid to the ground. "We'll have to rush home now," said Joe, picking up his shovel. "Goodbye, Silky. Goodbye, Moonface. See you soon. Bessie, bring the goat, and Fanny and I will shoo the hens in front of us." They left the aeroplane for Moonface and Silky to do with what they like, and set off home. Oh dear me, how astonished their mother was to see the green-winged hens, the snow-white goat, and the fine garden shovel. "You must have been in the Enchanted Wood," she said. "We've been much further than that," said Joe. And they certainly had, hadn't they?